What's up? Welcome back for another episode of the Currency Club. Today's special guest is an author, and his name is Shannon Pate, and he is the author of Dying to Live, The Principles of Mastering Moments of Survival. And I'm very excited to have him here. Been trying to schedule this interview for months, but had the pleasure of reading his book, loved it. He was very transparent. He was very authentic, and I feel like he gave the world some real takeaways for how they can survive hard times. What's up, Shannon?
What's going on, Whitney? Thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Shannon, born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a single parent home. Actually went to school, Grand Rapids Public Schools, graduated as the second grandchild of the family of high school, and then went off to college and became the first grandchild to graduate from college with my human service degree. From there, I started a family. I'm a father of three and became an author.
The book is good, y'all. I need everybody watching or listening to this to check out the book. Shannon survived so much, so many things that would have broken a lot of people, right? But here he is today, happy, smiling, successful in many aspects of life. But in his book, he talks about being a survivor. So a survivor of armed robbery, bullying, trauma at different levels, toxic relationships, and more. I don't want to give away all the details of the book because I need y'all to read it. But Shannon, let's talk a little bit about your story and just kind of what shaped you to make the person you are today.
So again, it is Principles of Mastering Moments of Survival. And just starting from the first part of the chapter, Surviving the Beginning. My name, again, I was in a single parent home. My father is currently incarcerated right now. He's doing a 30-year bid. And he's been going since I was 12. Part of the issue was with my name in the beginning is that I was named after another guy who wasn't my biological father. So I talk about how I survived those issues and the connection that me and my father had, me and Big Shannon had, me and my mother had. So I definitely dived into me finding a way to make my name unique for me. And so with the absence of my father, I had to figure out a way to become a man without having a father figure in my life. From there, I decided to have my three kids. I was going through so much when I was having them, being a father to them. I was just like, I have to get over the past trauma that I went through. Being, hit by a car, being shot, being bullied, things like that. This is what made me really think like, okay, I have to get into some closure.
Okay, so in your book, you share these 11 different principles, survival strategies, really. Which one of the 11 strategies do you think is the most impactful for you?
Part 3, which was owning your own flaws. And I talked about different situations that I was involved in. I say that was the most impactful because that was the one I realized, like, okay, not all was bad, not all was good. Everything did not happen to me, but I actually did things to actually cause things too. So it kind of made me realize, like, okay, Shannon, you start making these steps to bettering yourself, then certain things will actually stop happening to you. So it was a bit of ownership and trying to redeem myself. And I feel like that's the best thing that people can do for their life is actually redemption.
So I like that. And it kind of leads me to one of my favorite principles in your book, which was chapter 10, rectifying your wrongs and moving on and owning it, because I'm all about accountability too. Like we all play a role in every situation, whether we admit it or not. So many people often have this victim mentality when in reality, we have to say, what did I do to contribute to this situation? So I do like that you called that out. One of the topics was toxic relationships. In his book, he talks about how he had a girlfriend chased him with a knife. The world is just glorifying toxic relationships right now, arguing, abuse, all that, and it is not healthy.
But I want to make sure I'm really strategic of how I say this because it is still dear to my mother. But just being a child, just seeing the abuse and certain verbal and physical abuse that she had experienced. As I got older, I took that into my relationships as a teenager. So when I was 17, I was with a particular woman and she was verbal and physical abusive. But that's how she liked it. She felt like it was something that we should do and, get over. And just looking at her family, it was just a cycle that it was continuously happening. As I realized that it was getting so toxic, I had to make sure that I I moved myself out of the situation because the cops got called. I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I was locked up. It got really, really bad. She busted out windows, and we were teenagers and just going through some crazy in love type stuff. And I don't even think it was love. It was just a lot of lust. That's really what makes relationship toxic to me, is just lust and not even love. And so just surviving that, just knowing that what my parents went through and what I experienced, I had to make sure that I set a good example going forward. So I got out of it.
Why did you write this book?
Yes, I wrote the book because I felt like I had a lot of traumatic experiences. If you read the book, you would think like I'll be hurt, broken, a victim, things like that. And to me, it's like, I can't believe I survived that. Like, that is crazy. I love stories. When I watch movies and things like that, I love a storyline. And I'm like, this gotta be in a book, on TV, something, because it can help some people just with the story. And it can be a little entertaining. So it's just helping me close it. So this is my way of closing it, is writing it.
After your book was released, did you offend anyone? I know that was not your intent. You have a disclaimer in the beginning of your book. You say, this is my recollection of my experiences. But did anyone reach out to you like, hey, I don't remember it happening that way? Or what you said offended me, or you painted me in a bad light?
Yes, my parents. My mother, she believes she read like the first chapter and she was done. She figured that the whole book was going to be about her and what we went through. So she never even made it to the end just to even see how I closed it or how the story went. But she just told me, she's like, Shannon, I love you. I'm glad you wrote the book. I'm glad, you're doing what you do, but it's just not for me. I actually asked her, can I use my baby picture with me and her? And she was like, no, I don't even want my face in it. I'm like, I respect that. And my father, he gave me a whole 360 because he's the one I thought was going to be mad. And he was the one like, I'm glad you did it. You had to get it off your chest, or whatever you say I did or how I made you feel. I accept it. I'm sorry for it. It was like night and day. But I wanted that, honestly. I wanted my parents to see how I felt.
I feel like oftentimes there is a disconnect between parents and kids, the perception versus the reality, what our parents are intending to do for us, but the actual lived experience of the kid is often different. And then when children grow up and turn into adults, they recall all these events of their childhood and they're like, you did this or you didn't do that and it impacted me this way. Whether it's like the way we talk to each other, the way we interact, the way we provide, physically being there, present, just like so many experiences, I feel like there's often this disconnect. Talking through that, having that closure is very important. What do you hope the audience will gain from reading this book?
Just knowledge that everyone goes through something. It may not all be the same thing, but it can have the same effect on someone. So with reading the book, just knowing that mental health is a real thing, depression is a real thing, and just getting closure to any situation, anything that you feel that's hovering you and stopping you from being the best person you can be, find a way to get closure the best way you can.
Okay, so you just brought up mental health. I want to shift and talk about that because in your book, you touch on anxiety, you touch on depression. For so long, mental health, mental wellness in the Black community especially has been like this taboo topic where we can't talk about it. Or if a person is going through something, people try to say, oh, it's just a phase. Oh, he's just tired. Oh, he's just sad at the moment. He'll be all right. It's like we ignore the symptoms. We ignore when people are going through things. And we don't always encourage our people to go to counseling or to seek other help.
In the Black community, less than 10% of people actually seek counseling or any other treatment for mental health issues. And the biggest one is depression. It's definitely a taboo, something we don't talk about. We go talk to our friends, our family, might do some substance, stuff just to clear our minds. That's the way we feel, or going to party, or just finding an outlet to not think about the true issues. But then that doesn't help us because in the long run, now we mad because we told somebody some information that now they're throwing it back in our face, or we have these side effects from the partying and all the other stuff we were doing. So the best thing to do is seek counseling, even if counseling is actually going on YouTube and looking at affirmations or going to certain websites to just listen to a word. It doesn't have to be speaking to someone that if you don't feel comfortable, you can find other ways to get the counseling you need.
For everyone who may have read your book, there's lots of good content there. But if there was just one takeaway that you want people to understand, what would that one takeaway be?
It's not about how your journey started. starts, because everyone has a beginning. It's about what you do to navigate to make a better ending for your life.
Okay, so now I want to switch it up. I want to play a little game. This game is called I'm a Hustler. In the book, you talked about how you worked at a laundromat, and I think you had a paper route. What's the craziest thing you've ever done for money?
One of the things that I used to do was throw parties.
That was the thing. When I was in high school, they used to call them rent parties, and they would literally
Yeah.
pay some people's rent. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I felt that. I went to some of those. Not Shannon's party, but I went to other people's parties in the neighborhood, southeast side of Grand Rapids. So I hear you.
I was at work yesterday and a guy came up to me. He was like, I know you. You used to throw them legendary parties back in the day. I'm like, yeah, that was me. I'm like, that's crazy though. I don't know the guy's name. I don't even think he knew mine. I just think he knew my face. I used to have themes for my parties. Like I had a Gus Macker after party before. I had a spring break party. Like I used to theme them, and that's what got me into doing some of the events that I do now.
So we just talked about ways of making money. In order to make money with his book, Shannon has to market his book. So now I want to talk about marketing. I saw on Facebook that you had a photo with Natalie Nunn. She was holding up your book. How'd that happen? Natalie Nunn is a reality TV star, for those of you who don't know. I first found out about her on Bad Girls Club, but now she's doing a bunch of other stuff in the producer realm and some other things.
See, me, I like to manifest my life first when it comes to marketing. I decided to self-publish my book other than going through the traditional way, only because with the Black community, it's really about leaving assets and a foundation for your family that comes after you. If you are a self-publishing author, you actually can receive up to 70% profits of each book, other than a traditional company actually only getting like 7.5%. So I was thinking like, okay, I wanted to do it myself, but I also had to figure out that I had to grow a actual fan base. I had to market myself, because with traditional companies, they do everything for you. You just write the book and they find all the outlets to make you and them the money, majority of them. I really think about things that I want. So when I went to Houston, I had a pack of books on me. And I'm like, I know I'm gonna see somebody. If I get my book to one person, it's helpful. And so when I realized that 50 Cent was having a basketball game, I'm like, let me see who else talking about being here. And the network is Zeus, that Natalie Nunn is like an executive producer on. And there was some other people too. But I'm like, Zeus seemed like they always on Instagram. It seemed like they is more like connected to the fans and things like that. And I was in the same room. I'm like, I'm in the same room as them. I just got to walk over to them. I see security guards, but I ain't coming in on no crazy stuff. So I just approached her after the game. She gave me a hug. She told me she was going to read the book and things like that. Now the video actually shows her taking a picture with the book. That night, she didn't take the book. She didn't take the book only because she was going to partying and she was just like, I don't want to lose it. I really want to value it. And so what I had to do was send her my audio clip in her inbox on Instagram, and hopefully she read it that way.
There were still a lot of wins though. You met an influential person. You had the courage to go up to her and promote yourself. You got the video of her with the book in her hands.
Yeah, it was great wins. And even now when I like posted on social media, she liked my comments. She commented under the comments. So I'm like, this is dope.
What else do you do for marketing?
Other than social media, I have like promo videos. Since I am a self-publishing author, I had to take steps. So my first step was actually getting the book printed, and I just purchased all the books and kept them in my room. Yeah, so where I got them printed at is a few different spots. 48 Hours is a book company that you can get the books in 48 hours. The difference with them is it costs more because they sending it to you within like 2 days. So the more books you get, the more they charge you for. My other outlet is Amazon, and with them, they take about a week, but for the same amount of books I would have did on 48 hours, I probably would get from Amazon for like $200 cheaper. So it depends on how fast you need the books and the stock of what you already have.
Okay, so about how many books did you order off top with your first round of ordering for inventory?
First round of order, I purchased 250 books. And that was for my release. Well, I had a book release and then a release after party. And I actually sold about 200 books that day, but I had pre-orders before because I put the book on pre-order like 6 months before I released it. So I probably sold about close to 300 books all in all because I had to re-up the day after. So that was great. And that was just really off the people that knew me, that wanted to support me. And then the second batch, I'm like, okay, I know this next one is going to be kind of difficult because now I got to get out there and grind and get it in people's faces that really don't know me. The second one, I started doing like pop-up shops. That's what I did the whole year. And I did great with every pop-up shop I did. I made sure I maximized my money, at least doubled it. I took a lot of business classes though before then to know what was a smart move. I had to place myself on the amount of the pop-up shop, see if it was worth paying the amount for the pop-up shop and if I can get my money back with the number of books I sold. And so I was just being real strategic with it. And that was just the first year. The second year, I'm like, okay, I can't keep moving like this that much because now I want to get into other things. That's when I'm like, okay, the audio book. People keep coming to me like, Shannon, you got an audio book, you're doing audio. I'm like, it's coming. But since I'm a self-publishing author, I have to do them in steps. So the first year was just hard copy, me just pushing it out. The second year, I'm like, okay, Amazon here. We're going to do the audio book on Audible. And that way it can reach out to way more people faster. And then with that, it just gave me a great opportunity because my end game is making this a movie. It can be a movie, series, something. I want it to be on the screen.
Look at you answering questions I ain't even asked yet because I was going to say, what's the next phase for this? But I do have some thoughts there. I was so excited that the book was on Amazon Audible because that's the type of person I am. Like, I work a traditional 9 to 5. I might work 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. I'm trying to squeeze in a workout. I'm trying to squeeze in family time, creating content for my foodie page. Like, I do a lot. So I hardly ever have time to just sit down and read anything. Shannon blessed me with a hard copy of the book, which I have here. And that's a personal signature on the cover page, which I appreciate. But I was going to say there's benefits to both, right? So with the hard copy, he has some photos in here from his childhood and various points throughout his life. So that's a nice touch. But as he mentioned with his Audible version, there's sound effects. So it's like setting the mood and it was just easier for me to digest. I feel like the audio version was like 5 hours. I listened to all that in one day. I was cleaning my house, working out, and I got through it in one day. I love Amazon as a distribution partner is what I'll say, because I also wrote a book and my book is on Amazon and I get so many sales without even trying, just from people typing in the keywords that are in my book. And then my book comes up in search. And then the other benefit to Amazon is just that, of course, people can write reviews. And then, I mean, that builds your credibility as an author. So I think you're doing great with your marketing as an independent publisher. Okay, so you gave us a little preview about what's coming, but what else is next for your book?
Yes, so this year is year 2, and I'm focusing on getting my books into a sales front store. So it can be Barnes and Nobles, it can be Walmart, it can be Costco, just more access. I be going to Costco's all the times and I be seeing their little layout of books. And then I watched Best Man, the final chapters, and he was doing a book tour and he stopped there and I'm just like watching this movie and he's just in Costco's, like he's starting in Costco's and just going higher and higher. So
that is a great goal. That is a great next step for you in your marketing campaign and to get your books out to more people. Earlier today, you talked about how you like movies. I imagined you did because you're an author and a storyteller. But now I want to switch it up and play another game called For the Culture. So what is your favorite movie or series with a predominantly Black cast?
Outside of Best Man, Soul Food, just the storylines, the different dramas. It's just like a roller coaster. I love being on a roller coaster ride, going through emotions, being happy, being mad, being sad.
Who's your favorite author?
The GOAT, Maya Angelou. So she's wonderful. Like all her poems and things like that, I love. And just knowing that she was one of the Black females being able to reach the highest level of the bestseller top 10 list with her sales. So that was great. And the next one I would have to say is Dave Pilzer. And he's the one who wrote Child Called It. Child Called It was one of the first books that I've ever read. And that book actually put me in a state of mind like I've been going through a lot. My mom was not as bad as his mom, but just in his mindset, his moods, how things changed him with going through the things he was going through. I was getting hit with so much at a young age. Like I was hit when I was 5. I was shot when I was like 11. So just being so young and going through so many different traumatics, I kind of connected with that author.
I read that book as a child and it was a really good one, definitely memorable and stuck with me. And Maya Angelou, I can't believe you said her. I love that, respect that. I was always reciting her poems in elementary school too. But what's unique about this is present day, I literally still talk about Maya Angelou quotes. So during the day, I'm a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant. And in the DEI trainings that I facilitate, I always use this one quote, and it's people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So I
Yes.
just always remind people of that, like the impact that our words and actions can have. Next, for the culture question, do you like soul food? You like that
Yes.
as a movie, but do you like it as actual food that you eat?
I
Okay.
do everything but baked macaroni.
You know what? I could do without baked macaroni too. I'm all about the yams, some
Mm.
fried chicken.
It's
But what
really
is
the eggs that's in baked macaroni that, well, certain people make them. I'm just like, I don't eat eggs. I'm just like, yeah, I can't
okay?
mess with that macaroni.
What is the best soul food restaurant you've ever dined at?
I don't remember, but I know it was in Texas and also in Florida. The licking, is that considered soul food?
The Licking is definitely soul food. He says it's
Yeah.
Miami style soul food. It's actually DJ Khaled's restaurant, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not in Texas. It's only in Florida.
Yeah,
I
that
feel
one's
like
in
they have
Florida.
like 3 or 4 different locations in Florida. I've been there. I got a
Yep.
review on my other YouTube channel. But
Yep.
yeah, I've been to
And
the Licking.
that food was so good. I know they got one closer here in like Chicago, but
What is your favorite Black-owned business?
your podcast and your channel and everything you do, I definitely follow you. So yeah, for clothing line, I would have to give it up to Up Life because that's motivational for me. I like Bear All, and then honestly, it's so many people that's doing like clothing lines, prints, and things like that, and I try to purchase them all, dibble and dabble everywhere, depending on the design and the color I'm going for. And I always try to support all Black businesses.
Me too. Every Currency Club episode I have, I try to give at least, one Black business a shout out. So there are some people watching who may be aspiring authors. Now I want to
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that.
If you want to write a book, just be open to writing it. Don't start off wanting to write it and then feel the pressure that it's given and then back out of it. If you want to write a book, write it. Even if it's not about you, even if you want to write short stories or something that's not about you, make sure it's something that you want. I would say would be the first step. And then from there, write until you can't stop. Write until all the thoughts that you're thinking is out. Don't try to organize it. Don't try to put it in place. Just put it on paper, put it on your laptop, put it somewhere. And then from there, you can kind of go organize it. Because once you write and think of one thing, you're just not going to believe all the other things that you think about as you're writing. So just write.
I feel like you said you started writing your book on paper, like in a notepad first, and then you eventually typed it up later.
Yep, I
Right.
did. The crazy thing is, when I was a freshman in high school, my first hour teacher made us write a 10-chapter book. It was only supposed to be like a page or two. But everything I wrote about, I wrote then. I wrote it out on paper, and then we went to the lab and she let us type it up. But it's so crazy because I always felt that I wanted to write, and so even when I wrote those one-page little chapters, I was good with that. And then it's a whole 360 to now writing it on paper. I was working at a corporate job. I was in a depressed state of mind with losing my grandparents. And I'm like, I got to figure out something else that I want to do. I know I want to write, but it's just so much that I can write about. And I just was at work one day, like, oh, this customer is just driving me crazy. They just cussing me out. I just put out the paper and the pen and just started writing. And I started from the beginning too. I just went with my name. That story alone just takes me everywhere. From there, I wrote everything on paper. I still have the notebooks that I wrote the paper in. I always had a journal when I was younger. I used to write in a journal about the things I didn't like, the things I did like. It was like my affirmation of things. The thing is, though, I can't write about nothing else other than real life experiences. You can give me a topic and I probably can write about it, but it won't interest me I actually have to witness someone going through something or experiencing it myself to be motivated to write.
Did you have a copy editor for your book?
Yes. So after I got done with, I would say, my rough draft, I took a class. It was called 90 Days to be an Author. And in that class, it taught you where to go to get a professional editor. What I did was just go through the list. I chose two, actually. The first one just couldn't get what I was trying to communicate. I'm not sure where they're from or anything, so let me just go with someone else. And the second person, they nailed it. Being a first-time author and with me growing up with dyslexia, I still see things in the book like, oh, that sounds just like me. they didn't correct it, but it sounds exactly like me. Just learning different punctuations and just things like that that I still read to this day. Even when I listen to the audio, I'm just like, Shannon, you sound like you. And it's a good thing, but I'm just like, I'm still trying to clean it up. I'm still trying to become in a professional space, be an influencer and things like that. But I still like to keep my authentic self. So I'm like, okay, if I stumbled or skipped or mispronounced the word, that's just who I am. I'm trying to get good at it, better at it. But
Do you remember how much it cost for your copy editor?
I did like a bundle that provided the editor, the book cover, some marketing materials, and some like speaking engagement things. And so all together, honestly, just getting the book in hard copy, it was like $3,000 to $4,000. So just on the editing part, it was part of that. It was part of that big chunk.
That's okay, because that's what I was getting at. I was going to ask you the roundabout cost that it took to get this from idea in your head to a printed copy that you could sell to people. Let's talk about the artwork.
Yeah, so the course that I took, Becoming an Author in 90 Days, they actually had a publishing company, a self-publishing company. So they didn't publish your book. They just did everything a publisher would do. So they had like all the tools that you would need. So I just paid them a fee, and then they actually put me in those categories to actually get everything situated. Yep, and so with the cover art, it was a different person. Honestly, I went through so many different cover arts. The one I ended up with, I like it, but it wasn't my first option. My first option, they like, Shannon, you just want too much. And sometimes I get told that I'm over the top of doing things. Honestly, my first option was a little boy sitting on a bed with a picture of his dad in his hand. And he was like in a room, so you see like little toys and everything. He's looking down at the picture, but then it's a mirror that's above him that's showing the new version of me, the older version of me. I had my mindset on that, but they just was not getting it. So I'm like, you know what? Thanks to the child called It, I love that inspiration of that book cover with the little boy just looking up at the clouds. And so I'm like, I can have my son, do this, and it symbolizes me as a young boy. But I always tell my son, this, you might be on the cover, but I'm only doing this because I'm being strategic of how I'm about to help us build generational wealth. But this story is not yours. It's not yours. So make sure you disconnect the two. He's a smart kid, so he get it.
Thank you for clarifying that, because when I looked at the cover, I couldn't tell if it was you as a child or one of your children. So yes, Now it all makes sense. All right, you talked about building generational wealth. That's one of my goals too. Got a lot of stuff in the works.
I was taught that if you have a business, you can put your kids' photos wherever your business at, wherever the office is. If you just hang your kids' photos up, they can actually be considered the ambassadors of the company and can actually receive a fee up to like $6,000 or $7,000 a year. So they would basically be employed with your business just by you hanging a picture up of them. So when I was told that, I was like, oh yeah, my son definitely be coming on a picture because he's part of my legacy. And so I would say just start off with ways that get your children involved without them being fully involved. And that way you can be teaching them that generational wealth will happen if you guys continue what I start for you.
Yeah, I think another thing about generational wealth is if we are like starting a business and trying to hand it over to our children, seeing if they even interested in the said business. Like, for example, I was just watching a video on Instagram and it was talking about how one way that people create generational wealth is through real estate. So I might own a bunch of properties and then think, oh, I'm going to leave these to my kids when I die. But then my kids don't want to be landlords to have that passive income. So then they just sell all the properties. So then they have a chunk of money, but it's not ongoing wealth, and they don't have anything to leave to their kids because they never want to be a landlord to begin with.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just like putting my son's face on the cover. Like, he don't have to do nothing. That book's gonna be there forever. Even when I'm gone, it's gonna be making money for him and his family, and he didn't have to do anything. So I tried to figure out things that I can do to set my children up without them having to do. Because like you said, they can grow up and like, okay, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. The new thing though with them is this YouTube channel that they wanted me to create for the family. So we got this VIP, Very Important Pate YouTube channel going on where we discuss important issues. Like, we just did a vision board. And so now that we did a vision board, we talked about goals and objectives. And now they did something on their vision board, whatever they wanted to do on their vision board, the next video is going to be about them working towards that goal. So just
Okay.
finding family oriented things that they actually is, interested in to help grow our channel. Actually, if possible, not have to work so hard, for someone else. I see they watch YouTube all the time, and it's always other YouTubers and their families. I'm like, no, we got this family right here. We can be doing the same thing. So
I saw that on Facebook. I got to check out the content. I saw like a trailer of some content that was coming on YouTube. So yeah, YouTube, you can definitely monetize these channels. Just meet that criteria, get that minimum number of subscribers and watch time. But since we're on the topic of YouTube, I need you to tell the viewers why they should subscribe to the Currency Club.
Y'all should subscribe to the Currency Club on YouTube because Whitney is the bomb. She's really here for us. She's trying to help out everyone. She's trying to, help everyone grow as an entrepreneur, as an influencer. She's giving us the outlet to grow our businesses. And so she's just awesome. You guys should definitely subscribe.
Thank you for the promo. My next question is about accomplishments. In your book, you said one of your greatest accomplishments was meeting Ashanti. I want them to read your book, so I'm not even going to tell them the story about that, right? You met Ashanti. What is your greatest accomplishment as it relates to being a published author?
One of my friends told me the other day, he's like, Shannon, journalists never write books, and they write all the time. It's so many people that write all the time for other people and never write a book. So what you doing is one of a kind. And that stuck with me. It really hit me like, I did some great stuff. So I would just say the book, the Audible, that one there.
And Shannon narrated his own book. So when he's telling his story, it's his voice, which makes it even more special. Tell me about that process.
Last year, I did a vision board for my kids, and I put that I wanted to be in Audible form. And so what I did was I found the studio. I got a producer. Shout out to Trizzy Trey Productions. That's a good friend of mine. We got in the studio. So I was like, I want a beat. And he was like, just tell me what you want. So we picked out a beat. We listened to a few beats. We picked it out. And that one beat, you would hear it through the whole book. And then when we started recording it, I'm like, I don't want it to be just like any other audio book. I don't want it to be where you just hear one voice, just mild tone and just steady going. I want it to be action. So if it's a setting in the book, I want that to become the actual mood. I want people to be able to feel like they is watching a movie. They just got their back turned from the movie, but they still interested in the movie, or they trying to fall asleep because it's late and they're trying to stop binge watching a series, but they still hear it. I wanted to get that feeling. He mastered it. He took everything I said and we got in the booth. I did make sure I paid him because that's my boy and that's his business. So I definitely had to make sure I paid him to put it on Audible. I didn't pay them at all. They just take their percentage.
Right, of all the purchases and downloads. Okay. I know our time together is coming to an end, but before we go, I have to definitely thank you for your time, your attention, your detail, your transparency, your sharing your story with the world. And I need you to do one last thing for me, which is leave the viewers with an inspirational message.
It's not about who people say you are. It's about who you believe you are. Whatever you believe you can do it. Continue to make every moment matters always, because it truly does.
And that is it for us today. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join the club, and we will see you next